General Khan's situation has gone from bad to worse. He's hospitalized, he was shot, and is probably still in pain, but his situation outside that hospital bed is even worse. Because at the MADLANGA Commission, evidence of his alleged wrongdoings is being presented for South Africa and the world to see. At the MADLANGA Commission, alleged leaked WhatsApp messages of him allegedly confessing to wrongdoings are now public. Evidence leaders say those messages alone could see him face serious legal consequences for a very long time. Now all of this could have been avoided if only he had listened to Mkhwanazi's warning. I'll show you that warning right after this video. Kanjal, show us the tape of MADLANGA listing General Khan's wrongdoings.
Emerges from this set of chats, in addition to what I've already laid out, that there's this constant pressure that's then applied by Mr. Sayed. It's not isolated, it's sort of an ongoing need to secure the orders, that General Khan provides procurement related information and contact details and internal SAPS information. And the point is here that what it looks like is that General Khan allowed himself, if I can put it at the lowest bar, to be used for access to the SAPS and Treasury procurement channels for a private businessman. And it certainly appears from these chats that there was no attempt to enforce the law, either in relation to Mr. Sayed, who was making the approach to him, or in relation to the officials who seem to be in on the deal. And that shares where I conclude on this set of this batch of communications related to the PPE tender.
When you say it seems from these chats that there was no attempt to enforce the law, what do you mean? What law are we talking about, and what are you saying could or should have been done which was not done by General Khan when he's approached in this way?
What I would think the first thing would be is not to facilitate the process, not to assist. Now, as I said when I prefaced the discussion of the tenders, General Khan may have an explanation as to why he why he continued to facilitate it. We don't know what that is. But he didn't stop this process. He didn't say to Mr. Sayed, that's not the way we operate. He didn't report Mr. Sayed for all we can see. And there's no evidence, again, from the chats themselves that any action was taken against officials or any reporting of the officials took place. What we do know is General Fani was only suspended, I think, recently, a couple of weeks ago. So he remained, and this is 2021. So he remained in his position up until fairly recently. If there had been some law enforcement or some action taken by General Khan, perhaps something would have happened sooner. Again, General Khan might have an explanation for this.
In another stream of evidence that dealt with procurement matters, we've had an explanation from a witness who's an employee in a state entity that in the normal course they get inquiries from members of the public, and because they're a good civil servant, they tend to help members of the public and refer to, so there was nothing sinister in the engagements with members of the public on procurement matters. It may be it's too early in your process for me to ask this question of you, and you can say to me you'll deal with it later if you were going to. With the investigation and the set of documents that, especially the WhatsApp messages that you've had access to, are you able to offer any view about the nature of the relationship between Mr. Sayed and General Khan that may well explain this exchange, as he's a member of the public possibly requesting information from a public official? Are you able to offer a view about the nature of the relationship between the two? Commissioner Beloy, we are only going to particular parts, but we've read the entire
set of chats. And so it's clear that they have a very close personal relationship. This is not some member of the public who happens to call up someone. Perhaps they met you before and they know you and they call you up. This is someone he meets on a regular basis, he socializes with on a regular basis. And it's not the only instance in which he helps to facilitate. There are, that's the next example that I will go to, which shows more direct involvement in the process.
Thank you, Mr. Sim.
Advocate Asim, you confused me. You were dealing with an issue before this one where you said General Fani is still with SAPS, was only recently suspended. In the chats we were dealing with, that was in 2001. And was he then with Treasury and then at some point he moved to SAPS? Can you just clear up that confusion?
Yes, Commissioner Khumalo, it was 2021, these chats. And at this point in time, he was in Treasury, and we could see it from his email address. I've forgotten the exact date now, but I will provide it to you, the date when he was transferred from, in fact, it was a promotion, essentially, from Treasury into the SAPS. And I just don't remember the date. I think it might have been 2023, but I need to confirm that.
And then in your further engagement with Advocate Baloy, because I had a similar issue, is it fair to say you can put it no higher than to say prima facie, this is what the chats appear to indicate that he was facilitating on issues relating to procurement, including PPE and others, because I saw in one of the chats that there was a tender that was not related to PPEs, but he shared that there is this tender coming up, and he shared it with Mr. Syed. And there may or may not be impropriety, but that will be put to him if and when he does come and give evidence, and his version will then be presented at that stage.
Yes, I'm going to go to the next chat. So I was just wrapping up on the PPE tender to say, don't know what happened with that particular one. And on the face of it, this is all it was. This is as far as it went. But we do need to see these engagements. And so it's linked to Commissioner Baloy's question is, you know, what do we make of this? Is it just this one isolated incident? Is it an innocent approach to say, you know, I happen to know you and you're there, can you tell me, give me more information that one would give anybody about access to a contract and the kind of, that's not what we're looking at here. We're looking at something much more, I use my words carefully, but problematic. And we'll see that in the next conversation that we're about to get to. And that one deals with an IT contract. 2022. Commissioner Khumalo, the date at which Molefe Fani joined the SAPS was 1 August 2022. August 2022. And he was a divisional commissioner for supply chain management in the SAPS.
And I guess this may be relevant to one of the streams that we are dealing with, that because you said it was a promotion, which means he was not promoted from within SAPS, but when he moved from Treasury to SAPS, he became a general.
That's indeed my point. So he was a senior officer in Treasury.
But not at SAPS, that's my point. So he didn't rise through the ranks.
He didn't rise through the ranks, it was a transfer.
It was a transfer from Treasury, and then when he went to SAPS, he was given the rank of a general.
And he was put in charge of supply, he was a divisional commissioner.
I'm more interested in the rank.
Oh, the rank, yes.
Because it is relevant to the other stream we are dealing with.
Yes, so he was given the rank of Lieutenant General.
In fact, Chair put it to Mr. O'Sullivan when he was here, that it often happens that people are appointed by SAPS and they are given a higher rank, so they don't start from the the very bottom when they joined SAPS.
Yes.
So I was asking it in that context.
No, I understand, Commissioner Kumalo. It's also why I refer to it as a promotion, because it's such a senior position. That's why you acquire the rank of Lieutenant General. It's because of the seniority of the position that he's given. So anybody who would come from another institution or organization, whether it's within government or outside of government, but outside of SAPS, you would be placed at the level, you would be given the rank that is commensurate with your seniority in the SAPS, and that's what happened here. So he didn't come through the ranks in the SAPS at all.
But you may only call it a promotion if you are sure that it's not equivalent to the position he held in the National Treasury. But if the two are equivalent, it's not necessarily a promotion. It's just that he didn't start as a constable within SAPS.
That's correct.
Yes,
What I
yes.
will confirm was whether he was in a similarly senior position in procurement in Treasury.
But do you think we need to get there? I don't think so.
Well, no, Chair, it really is to explain why I considered it yes, he was a chief procurement officer in Treasury and a director. And then he moved to SAPS. In SAPS, he was divisional commissioner of supply chain management. That was where he was appointed. And therefore, because of the seniority of that position, he was awarded, or I don't know how one gets these ranks, granted the rank of Lieutenant General.
Yes. No, thank you. I think that's enough for our purposes, yeah. Thanks. Sorry. Mr. Wali.
And then on the 16th of August, if I can just find the page 6316. Can I reflect this? Yeah. Chair, if you bear with me for one moment. It's 6316 at 9:38 a.m. Mr. Sayed sends to General Khan a notice. You'll see it's an attachment. It says cloth and surgical masks national letter, 13 August 2021, signed by DivCom. And I'm not sure whether it's in the annexure bundle, Chair, so that's why we're just flighting it. This is the national letter that is being referred to. It's signed at the bottom by Divisional Commissioner for Supply Chain Management, RIT, by Lieutenant General RIT. And Mr. Sayed says, what does this mean? And then General Khan breaks it down for him and he says, well, now we can order the masks using the RT contract. What the letter talks about is, well, you can see the heading. It's a protocol for containment of COVID, and it says that this is approval for all SAPS employees to use both masks when wearing uniform. So again, it's about what the SAPS will be procuring. That is one more message, and that's well, no, let me end on this one. We don't know at this point what became of the contract, because it's not reflected on the chats whether this contract was ever concluded and whether Carney Links in fact secured this tender and when that would have happened. This is as far as it goes on the PPE tender. There is one more message that's just, I'll just go there just because it's linked to this. And it was on 30 June 2021. And it is a screen on 30 June. Mr. Valley sends a screenshot to General Khan of a series of tenders that are also PPE tenders. And he says, bro, dispensers we can do. So at the same time, we see at the same time as there's a facilitation of a tender with Mr. Sayed, on 30 June 2021, there's a conversation happening in parallel with Mr. Valley, Mr. Ismail Valley, for an attempt to secure and to get assistance to facilitate access to a tender for dispensers. He says, we can do dispensers. And he sends a screenshot of these tenders. I'll come back to that because it's the subject of a separate chat. The relevance now is that it's the PPE contracts that are sort of the order of the day at this point in time in 2021. So what, commissioners, we see from these...
Ms. Hassan, Valley, is he an employee of SAPS, of Treasury? Who is Valley?
I'm going to take some time to explain that, but he is a businessman.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you about the letter that you referred us to, the SAPS letter that said there won't be any further emergency procurement, but instead the procurement of the surgical masks will be sourced through the National Treasury contract, which was that letter that you referred us to, and then reading it with 6317, where Mr. Syed says, but we are not on that contract, so that may be a problem for us. And then the response from General Khan. It seems to me that that's where the whole thing ends, because they realize that they are not part of this contract. So the only way to get in is that somebody who is part of this contract, they must then, I don't know what to make of it.
Yeah, well, so Commissioner Khumalo, we don't know how it ends. We know that it's now been moved from an emergency procurement process to the RT process. And then Mr. Sayed says, well, what are we meant to do with that? General Khan says, that's why Mahlangu was supposed to arrange for us to link up with someone who is in the RT. And then Mr. Sayed says, okay. And it continues off onto a different topic from there on. Now, whether they then linked up with someone who has access to that contract, we just don't know. But what's clear is that whatever process Mr. Sayed thought they were going to be able to follow wasn't going to work out. So they were looking for an alternative means. So, Commissioners, this set of chats on this particular tender on PPE shows several things. It shows that Mr. Sayed, a private businessman, Carney Link's director, wanted access to these SAPS masks orders. At the very least, but he, as we know, he sent samples of more than masks. General Khan responded to all of his messages, acting as a facilitator. And on the face of it, he is facilitating. He's not responding as a senior police officer who's distancing himself from the improper approach that is being made to him to facilitate access to the contract. He also refers to other individuals within government who may provide assistance in securing this access and to other procurement vehicles.
And then that letter, Advocate Hassim, is it an internal SAPS letter that he shared with Mr. Syed?
The one on the cloth masks and surgical... Can I have a look one more time? That letter, as I said, was by the Divisional Commissioner, Lieutenant General Ritt. He was SCM Divisional Commissioner, Supply Chain Management. It's addressed to It's
So
addressed
sections
internally
within
to the
SAPS.
all sections within
Yeah.
SAPS only.
So it's not for it's not for public.
It is not sent to the public, no. It's an internal communication.
Now you might be asking how Mkhwanazi got into all of this. Well, he did not get into it for the wrong reason. He got into it because there was a video of him talking about Khan and his political friends. In that video he revealed everything, but at the time we didn't pay close attention to it. Maybe we felt like it was just political friends and nothing deeper than that. But now, everyone understands it. If you've gotten to this point, it could only mean one thing. You're enjoying our video. Kindly join our community by subscribing. Help us grow this community. Kanjal, show us the MADLANGA bombshell.
We can project properly. Let's leave it. Yeah.
I think that this is the last of the series in this annexure. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioners, if I may continue then, the message that he had sent, which I said earlier, the Minister is briefed, he has just arrived in Lusikisiki. The Minister on the day was visiting the incident that happened in Lusikisiki where many people were killed. So this was just another confirmation that this man knows exactly about the Minister's movement. So he's either with him or he's informed about the Minister's movement. That's why he can write messages like this. This was again to confirm that I have to trust that he's a person who's close to the Minister. And when he responded to the message I sent him earlier of what did Khumalo say about me, his response was, Jen, which means general in abbreviation, Jen, this must be in your chest. So which means he wanted me to keep this secret. And I'm wondering now, why is he telling me if he doesn't want me this thing to go public? And then my response, of course, because I wanted him to get me information, I said, trust me on this one. And then he wrote a message, which followed at the bottom of 318, which reads, I'm going to read it on the record. You are having your interest and that maybe you are having your own cartel. You don't listen to the CI, that is crime intelligence. Then Masimula intercepted him. So, which means General Masimula was in that meeting as well. Also spoke about your provincial crime intelligence member. Remember, he is retiring. I think there's message missing there. He's retiring next month. And if we move to 319.
Can you please, in your own words, explain what the first part of this text means, starting from you are having right up to intercepted him? It's rather cryptic.
At the time, my understanding is that he's telling me that what was discussed in a meeting, which he sent me a screenshot on, the one that talks about crime intelligence policies, they were discussing me, about me not wanting to cooperate and working well with the head of crime intelligence in KZN. So that was my conclusion, that he was saying that I don't want to cooperate with them on information that they are giving me. I don't want to operationalize such an information. And that's why he even knows that the head of crime intelligence in KZN is going on retirement. So this is a person who knows everything about the police, even knows when is a person retiring.
Thank you. You may continue.
Yeah. So and then the following message on the next page, 319, I then asked him that please get me that presentation if there is one to confirm or otherwise if there is any recordings. Because I wanted to get a proof that what was this presentation about that he has access to that I don't know. The response from him, what made me start connecting the dots. Remember we spoke about investigation and pictures starting to emerge. His response was nothing. General Khan will brief you next week. Now, Commissioner, I want to put on the record that I only know one General Khan within crime intelligence. He's a Major General Khan that was on the news not long ago. Some of the colleagues will know about the attendance of the EFF celebration last year, as well as the case that was alleged that Khan was involved in stopping the police when they were busy with the drug operation at Eratin in Johannesburg. When he sent me this, I then concluded that means General Khan is in that meeting. It is General Khan most likely that is feeding him with the information. That was my conclusion. Why would he choose General Khan to brief me if I ask for a presentation? But again, I don't have proof of it. It is him that is writing this message. But I guess with the investigation, we're going to see linkages about all these people within the police. And my response was, sure. And then he sent another one to say back in Joburg, and after that followed by phone calls, and there's many other communication that followed thereafter. I don't have to read all of them, Commissioners, as you can see that are following on those attachments. And as I said, General Khan has been on the news. He's a component head within crime intelligence. General Khan, when he sends me this message, General Khan was appointed, his post that he's occupying as a component head at crime intelligence is an operational intelligence support within crime intelligence. But he was appointed acting as a component head of counter and security intelligence. When Khumalo arrived at crime intelligence, that was a position that General Khan was acting on. So Khumalo, I understand, he had moved him back into his old position. Counterintelligence, if I can indicate, Commissioner, is that the vetting is done at counterintelligence. Majority of operations like this drug cartel operation that is holding counterintelligence investigation, it's conducted in that office. So meaning it's a person who, it's an office that really is in the heart of intelligence operations. General Khan was acting there. General Khan has since been moved back into his technical support. I'm not saying that General Khan is involved in these leakages of information to the members of parliament and to the other people, but what is interesting is that almost everything that we see happening in parliament, in the media, comes from that component of crime intelligence. And this is where the real fight comes from. The operation of Gauteng counterintelligence that involves this drug cartel is in that component. So, and this is Mkhwanazi that introduces Khan to me. I said, Commissioners, I'm going to reflect to what happened in 2011, late on my statements. Crime intelligence, modus operandi back then, and players that were involved back then with the looting on the man and irregularities, they still exist at crime intelligence today, and some of them are occupying high position. So there has no reforms that has been implemented at crime intelligence. That's why it's no surprise when you start seeing things coming out. Like I said on record, I did not say that General Khan has leaked any information. It is Mkhwanazi that introduces Khan. I only know of one Khan at crime intelligence. So perhaps as we investigate further, we'll be able to see whether there's any leakages between these people. That information that is supposed to be within the confines of those four walls where the meeting was taking place ended up with Mkhwanazi. Commissioners, as I've outlined a lot of communications here with Mkhwanazi, if I can move faster, if you allow me to see on my statement, because I think a lot of things that we have spoken about here. Later in the year, which I suppose maybe this why Mkhwanazi is coming to me with this, is that first General Tsele calls me, he's a former minister, he calls me and he says the Premier of Gauteng have approached him to go and work in Gauteng to help him fight crime in Gauteng. Therefore, he needs General Khumalo, who is a district commissioner and ex-task force commander in KZN, to come and work with him in Gauteng. And I find it strange because I think he called 2 or 3 times. While I was in a meeting, I kept giving the phone to one brigadier who was with me in the meeting. And after that, I had a conversation with General Tsele, and then he pleaded with me to release this general to come to Gauteng. And My surprise was, but when Gerald Cele was in the police, he did not like the general, Khumalo. He didn't like him at all. So why now that he's out of the police, he trusts Khumalo to come and work with him in Gauteng? It was just strange. And I turned to my colleague, Jaron Hua, who was with me in a meeting. This was in Durban. Jaron Hua works at the head office from HR. So I turned to her and said, but I received a strange call here. Gerald Cele is asking me to approach Khumalo, who's a district commissioner of Zululand, to come and work with him in Gauteng, meaning he must resign from the police and go and work in Gauteng with him for 5 years, then he'll come back into the police, which was very odd. And Gerald Hua was also confused. He said, but as far as I know, Cele didn't like Khumalo. And he made all of us at the head office to believe that Khumalo is a bad person. Why will he now suddenly want Khumalo to work with him? So it was just a strange call. I then contacted Gerald Khumalo. He's a Major General. I phoned Gerald Khumalo and said, Gerald Khumalo, this is a request I received from Gerald Cele. Gerald Khumalo just laughed and he said, well, don't worry. The general is not serious about that. So I asked him, what do you mean? He said, no, he's not serious. He wants me to back off on the case against Khan, General Khan from Crime Intelligence. So Cele is pursuing Khumalo to resign from the police so that he can stay away from the disciplinary case because he was appointed to deal with that case departmentally against General Khan. So Khumalo says, no, this is the approach of Cele to want me to back off. And that got me so upset, commissioners, that can really Gerald Cele go to the extent of wanting a person to resign from the service because he wants to protect someone? It was very strange. I did not talk to Gerald Cele from the day. I did not talk to him. I was very upset. It disappointed me as a person who's a former minister in the police. I was just upset. Fast forward, commissioners, the police have got two disciplinary processes. It's what's called expeditious and the other one's a normal disciplinary process. Expeditious, you basically, in short, I could say, we're already saying to you, you are guilty of an offense. Come before a presiding officer to explain why you say you're not guilty, in a way. But in a normal process, the employer must present the allegations and you have a chance to cross-examine witnesses and argue a case. And then you have a presiding officer that must decide. So the initial disciplinary procedure that was initiated for Gerald Khan on that interference with the drug in Johannesburg was that of a expeditious process. So Khumalo was then appointed as a person who's going to preside over that. And Major Gerald Khan approached the court granted, they overturned that and they say, no, we must go to a normal disciplinary hearing where he has a right to be represented and bring witnesses and question the witnesses and so forth. And therefore, there must be presiding officer appointed. Then Gerald Khumalo, the Divisional Commissioner of Crime Intelligence, approached me and he asked me to be a presiding officer. I then agreed. Shortly after agreeing to be presiding officer, not long after that, I started getting this communication from Mr. Mkhwanazi. But at that time, I'm not understanding as to what this communication, what is the background of this communication. But he started communicating these things to me. That's why he throws Gerald Khan's name in it. And later, I think, I cannot remember exact date, I think it will have been the beginning of the year, I received an inquiry. Actually, I received a phone call from the very same journalist, Bombshells of Africa. His call was, you remember the story I asked you about of what happened in Bangin? I said, yes. He said, but my colleague has just approached me, confronted me about that story and is asking him, why didn't he publish the story? And he said, no, but there was no story there. I listened to this thing and it just didn't make sense. Somebody is trying to peddle and frame Jerome Kwans for nothing, so I didn't publish this. And in his own words to me, Bombshells Africa was, this colleague of his says to him, now I'm forced to publish the story. And Bombshells found it strange, so he called me first. He said, hey, who did you upset somewhere in the police? Then I said, no, I don't know anything. Then he said, but is anything happening in the police that will lead people to want to publish this thing that is a year later? So old. they'd want to publish. Then I said, well, the only thing I know is that I'm going to be presiding over a disciplinary case. So he asked me, whose disciplinary case is that? I told him it's for Gerald Khan. He said, oh no, now I connect the dots. Because my colleague and Gerald Khan are close. It could be coming from there. That is his words. Mzilikazi will come here and say that. But I told him that I'm going to talk about this. He said, no, if he's called here, he will come and talk about it. I know who the colleague is. I'm not going to say it in public. He will perhaps, if you want to divulge that, he will. That's why I'm saying there are players within the media houses that are part of. So shortly after that, I received a message from the very same colleague of Mzilikazi. He sent me a question about the same incident. I gave him a full explanation as I did here to Brian Mkhwanazi. A full explanation. A logic journalist will have understood and said, okay, well, this is just a malicious thing and don't publish that. But that find itself to the newspaper on a Sunday. Commissioners, it is fair. That's why I like investigative journalists. I think they're credible because they investigate first before they talk. I like the ones on TV behind cameras because they give it as is. The others that will just get information from others and write it becomes question marks, which what happened to this one.
And which Sunday publication was there?
I know the name of the journalist. I cannot remember exactly the Sunday, the paper. I don't want to, I might end up being sued if I mention the wrong name here. But I know the name of the journalist, so I can give you the name of the journalist.
You said you are not divulging it.
Yeah, I'll give you the name of the journalist, you'll write, and you'll see the trend throughout, up to now. It's the same journalist that is part of the squad. Well, there are others that are linked with him, but he's the main one. So the story goes out, commissioners, to the newspaper. It's an allegation that was made by Mkhwanazi that someone wants to open a case against me. Now, in the newspaper is my full picture there. And the big heading, allegations against Gerald Mkhwanazi defeating, and they write a story of what happened. They, of course, write my response. So, but the problem is, it is my face there, not the complainant. It's my face that is there. The heading creates question marks about my integrity as a person, as a senior officer in the province. They put my full response on the paper. So a person who reads the paper will get to understand the context of this heading and the story. They will be fine with it. But for you to get into a newspaper, must subscribe, must pay money. Some of us don't necessarily subscribe to papers. But there is social media that is free. Now on the social media, they take the heading because you are limited on what you write in there. They take the heading of allegations that Gerald Mkhwanazi is accused of defeating end of justice against a drug dealer at Kalagabusha. And that goes into their media account, social media account. And that which spreads like wildfire because people access it easy. Remember, they don't have a privilege of reading the full report that is on the paper. They are just taking it from this headline. And the picture is painted. The Mkhwanazi is a bad person. And they're achieving what they want. So I took it as a pressure for me to back off from the case that I was going to preside over of Gerald Khan. How do I prove that? Is because Gerald Khan's lawyers, they even wrote to me on emails and said, there's these things about you on the media, so we are in doubt of your independence in dealing with Khan. They wrote to me that, and that's what they said on email. So that's when I deducted that, oh, the pressure was for me to back off on this disciplinary case. So what Kumalo told me that they were wanting him to resign because they wanted him to back off on the case. So why will they go all out to try and get us to back off on the case against Gerald Khan? I'm an independent person. Yes, I know Gerald Kumalo is my colleague, but I'm not going to go and go with what Kumalo perhaps might want to do in dealing with Khan. Mine is to follow the policy and the law. And I could see that the whole idea was just, let's tarnish this man's image. And that's all. So that's what they did. They created a doubt. So fast forward, the disciplinary case comes, and I believe I was fair to Gerald Khan. Despite the allegations that came from IPID, I still protected his rights. I allowed him to bring his lawyers in there. I sat and I listened to the evidence that was provided. The very same General Kumalo that was asked to resign was representing the employer. General Khan had his legal team, and there were witnesses that were brought to come and testify. I could not find a single wrong that General Khan has done. In actual fact, I even said there